Las Vegas was once the city where everyone could feel like a high roller. Families piled into cars, tourists flocked from around the world, and even if you lost a little money at the tables, you walked away with a story, a free show, and maybe a buffet that felt like a feast. But that promise, the very soul of Vegas, is crumbling before our eyes. Imagine stepping into a casino today and being greeted not by magic, but by a wall of hidden charges, $60 check-in fees, $50 resort fees, $25 cocktails. For middle-class families, the math no longer works. What used to be a weekend escape has become a financial punishment, and the numbers prove it. In June alone, Las Vegas lost more than 400,000 visitors, an 11.3% plunge that marks the city's worst tourism crisis in years. Executives say it's intentional. The CEO of Caesars Entertainment admitted publicly that they are kicking out the lowest end and see no reason to stop. Think about that the very companies that built their empires on everyday visitors are now chasing them away. This is the story of how corporate greed, price gouging, and an obsession with billionaires are driving Vegas into a slow-motion collapse. We'll uncover what's really happening behind the neon lights, why the middle class is being forced out, and what this means for the future of America's playground. For decades, Las Vegas thrived because it was a destination for everyone. The Strip didn't just cater to billionaires or celebrities. It welcomed families from the Midwest, retirees from Canada, and young couples looking for a weekend escape. That broad appeal created the energy that made Vegas legendary. But in recent years, casino executives have shifted strategies, and the results are shocking. Instead of drawing in as many guests as possible, they're deliberately shrinking their customer base. The clearest proof came in 2023 when Caesars Entertainment CEO Tom Reeg told analysts on a public call that the company was kicking out the lowest end and saw no reason that needs to stop. That statement wasn't a slip of the tongue, it was a window into the new philosophy dominating corporate boardrooms. To them, the middle class isn't valuable enough. They'd rather chase a handful of whales than thousands of ordinary guests. This calculated exclusion can be seen in policy after policy. Basic amenities that once defined the Vegas experience. Affordable rooms, cheap buffets, free attractions have been stripped away. In their place are inflated resort fees, premium-only shows, and luxury spaces designed for the ultra-rich. It's not an accident that parking fees, check-in surcharges, and food prices have exploded in lockstep. Each one is part of a broader plan, make Vegas too expensive for the average traveler while promising VIP treatment to those who can spend millions. But here's the flaw. Middle-class visitors have always been the backbone of the industry. According to gambling analysts, the majority of casino revenue comes not from high rollers, but from everyday people who play slot machines, buy meals, and book rooms in bulk. By alienating them, the city risks cutting off its lifeline. Already, the backlash is visible in online forums where frustrated guests describe sleeping in cars rather than paying fees that rival their hotel bills. When customers openly joke about avoiding the Strip altogether, it's a sign that something is deeply broken. What makes this shift even more troubling is that it's intentional, not accidental. Casino executives admit they want fewer low-spending customers, even if it means emptier floors. They believe exclusivity and luxury branding will drive profits in the long run. But the data tells a different story. Declining foot traffic reduced tips for workers, and falling occupancy rates reveal that the strategy is backfiring. Without the crowds, Vegas loses the atmosphere that made it irresistible in the first place. In other words, by chasing the wealthy few, Las Vegas is turning its back on the very people who made it a global icon. It's not just a business miscalculation, it's a cultural betrayal. And as we'll see in the next chapter, this betrayal has erased some of the city's most magical experiences forever. One of the greatest losses in Las Vegas isn't just about money, it's about magic. For decades, the city lured visitors not simply with slot machines or card tables, but with experiences that felt larger than life. Families could stand shoulder to shoulder with strangers from around the world and watch the Mirage volcano erupt against the desert sky. They could gather outside Treasure Island to see pirates clash in a choreographed battle that blended fire music and spectacle all for free. These attractions weren't just shows, they were rituals moments that defined what it meant to be in Vegas. But that spirit is vanishing. In August 2024, the Mirage volcano erupted for the last time before being demolished to make way for Hard Rock's new guitar-shaped tower. Crowds packed the sidewalks, desperate to witness a final glimpse of history before the skyline swallowed it. For many, it felt like the end of an era. That wasn't the first blow, though. Treasure Island's pirate show had already been shuttered back in 2013 after entertaining millions for more than 2 decades. The same fate met Marvel's Avengers Station at Treasure Island, which closed permanently in January 2024, leaving yet another empty space where wonder once lived. The message is clear. The free attractions that once gave Vegas its energy are disappearing one by one. In their place are exclusive high-priced entertainment options that only a fraction of visitors can afford. What was once a city where a family could enjoy a night of spectacle at no cost is now a city where every ounce of entertainment comes with a steep price tag. The democratization of magic, the idea that anyone regardless of budget could experience something unforgettable, is being erased. This shift undermines the very foundation of Las Vegas's allure. The middle class didn't just fill hotel rooms. They filled sidewalks, created atmosphere, and gave the Strip its pulse. The shows were part of the bargain. You might lose a little money gambling, but you'd gain a memory you could take home. By tearing down these iconic attractions, casinos have broken that bargain. They've replaced community spectacle with sterile luxury trading mass excitement for targeted exclusivity. The consequences are deeper than nostalgia. When families feel excluded, they stop coming. When locals see their city stripped of character, they stop participating. The Strip becomes emptier, colder, and ironically less appealing, even for the wealthy guests it now chases. After all, high rollers still want to gamble in an atmosphere buzzing with energy, not in a hollow corridor where the only spectacle is silence. In destroying the symbols that made Vegas feel alive for everyone, the city risks destroying its identity. The volcano is gone, the pirates are gone, even the buffets, long considered the great equalizer of Vegas, are dwindling. What remains is a city desperately trying to reinvent itself as an exclusive playground, while forgetting that its true power came from being a playground for all. If Las Vegas is turning its back on the middle class, then who exactly is it chasing? The answer is simple: whales. In casino slang, whales are the elite gamblers who wager millions of dollars per session, people whose presence can make or break a weekend's revenue. To attract them, Vegas has built a parallel universe of indulgence, one far removed from the experience of ordinary visitors. Consider the treatment offered to names like Australian billionaire James Packer or boxing legend Floyd Mayweather, both known for running staggering bets at the Bellagio and Venetian. These aren't just guests, they're royalty. For them, the red carpet doesn't start at the hotel lobby. It begins with private jets or helicopter transfers, fleets of Rolls-Royces and Bentleys at their disposal, and sprawling penthouse suites hidden from public view. Entire villas available by invitation only are maintained just for these select few, stocked with every imaginable luxury. Their meals are prepared by celebrity chefs, their entertainment is custom curated, and their losses, sometimes in the millions, are seen as the cost of keeping them happy. At first glance, it seems logical. Why not focus on the players who bring the biggest checks? But here's the dirty secret. The bulk of casino profits doesn't actually come from whales. According to John Idmo's book, Legalized Gambling, America's Bad Bet, most of the money sustaining Las Vegas flows from the lower and lower middle classes, ordinary gamblers who feed the slot machines, buy mid-range meals, and book standard rooms in overwhelming numbers. These are the guests who provide consistent, predictable revenue. Whales, by contrast, are volatile. They win big, lose big, and sometimes walk away, leaving the casino with less than it invested in pampering them. That reality makes the city's obsession with the ultra-rich feel less like a strategy and more like a dangerous gamble. By shifting resources away from the masses and toward a handful of elites, Vegas is trading stability for spectacle. The problem is that whales don't generate atmosphere. They gamble behind closed doors, tucked away in private salons where their chips never mingle with the energy of the casino floor. Without the middle class filling the slots, cheering at the tables, and packing the sidewalks, the strip loses its electricity. The very vibe that once attracted the rich in the first place begins to fade. This dynamic creates a vicious cycle. As casinos chase whales harder, they raise prices to drive out everyone else. As middle-class visitors vanish, the city grows emptier. And as the city grows emptier, even the whales start to question whether Vegas is still worth it. After all, who wants to play in a billion-dollar playground when the crowd that once made it legendary has disappeared? Even locals see the danger. One insider from a major casino admitted anonymously that executives are obsessed with cutting costs and squeezing every last dollar from customers while ignoring the bigger picture. To them, every perk for a whale is justified even if it means alienating thousands of regular visitors. But strip away the ordinary people and the whales are left to gamble in silence. That silence isn't glamorous, it's hollow. By centering its future on the wealthiest sliver of guests, Las Vegas is abandoning the formula that made it thrive: inclusivity wrapped in spectacle. Instead of a city where anyone could feel like a high roller for a night, it's becoming a city where only actual high rollers matter. And that, ironically, may be the riskiest bet of all. If chasing whales is the new obsession, then squeezing every last dollar from ordinary visitors is the survival strategy. And nowhere is that more obvious than in the relentless rise of hidden fees and inflated prices across the Las Vegas Strip. What used to be marketed as affordable luxury has morphed into a gauntlet of charges that make even seasoned travelers feel swindled. Take resort fees. Once introduced quietly as a way to pad revenue, they've ballooned into a daily tax on anyone staying on the Strip. In December 2024, MGM Resorts raised fees by another $3 to $8 per night, the second increase that year. Today, resort fees average between $40 and $55 per night, stacked on top of room rates that have already soared. For a family on a budget, that's not just an inconvenience, it's a deal breaker. The squeeze doesn't stop at lodging. Casino floors have been quietly reshaped to reduce winning odds for players. Blackjack tables, long a staple of Vegas gaming, increasingly use 6-to-5 payout ratios instead of the traditional 3-to-2. On paper, it looks like a small change. In reality, it slashes player returns. A $10 blackjack win that once netted $15 now pays just $12. Over the course of a night, that difference turns into a serious drain on wallets, leaving gamblers feeling cheated instead of entertained. Food and drinks tell the same story. Visitors have reported jaw-dropping prices that border on parity: $50 for a bottle of water, $25 cocktails, $30 pancakes, $35 burgers. And those figures don't include the mandatory tips which are expected on top of already inflated bills. As one frustrated guest put it online, "Nobody wants to tip 20% on a $30 pancake." Dining once. Part of the allure of Vegas has become another reminder of how aggressively the city is monetizing every experience. The human cost of this strategy is just as visible as the financial one. Workers who depend on tips like servers and cocktail waitresses have seen their incomes plummet. One TikTok user described earning just $124 in tips during a shift that used to bring in $300 to $500 the year before. Another server at the MGM Grand admitted foot traffic had slowed dramatically, leaving fewer customers and smaller gratuities. The very employees who keep the city running are paying the price for policies designed to extract more money from fewer guests. The backlash is spreading beyond the workforce. Tourists are voicing their anger on social media, and some stories have gone viral. One guest at the Flamingo shared his outrage after being charged $60 just to check in early on, top of the already hefty fees. His post struck a chord because it captured what so many others were experiencing: the sense that Vegas is no longer about fun, but about being nickel and dimed at every turn. All of this raises a troubling question: how much is too much? By prioritizing short-term profits over long-term loyalty, casinos are alienating the very people they depend on. What was once a city of indulgence now feels like a city of extortion. And as we'll see in the next chapter, the consequences of this strategy are beginning to show in the numbers, and they're far worse than the executives expected. The price of greed is now showing up in hard data, and the picture is grim. For all the talk of attracting high rollers and maximizing revenue, Las Vegas casinos are discovering that pushing out the middle class comes with devastating consequences. The numbers don't lie, and they paint a story of a city eating away at its own foundation. Hotel occupancy, once the most reliable indicator of Vegas's strength, has slipped noticeably. In 2024, occupancy dropped 2.1 percentage points, landing at just 78.9%. That may sound high, but in a city built on near constant flow, even a few points represent thousands of empty rooms every night. Average daily room rates, another key metric, fell 5.5% to around $185, undercutting years of price hikes. And revenue per available room, a measure that blends occupancy and pricing power, crashed by 7.6%. Those numbers are a direct reflection of travelers staying away, and they strike at the heart of the Vegas model. The deeper collapse is happening at the casino level. Strip casino net income plummeted by an astonishing 40.4% in 2024, even as overall revenue rose by 6.2%. In other words, the casinos are making more money on paper, but keeping far less of it. Rising costs, lavish perks for whales, and the loss of steady middle-class income have combined to shred profitability. For Wall Street, those figures raise red flags. For workers and residents, they translate into real pain. Because Las Vegas isn't just a playground, it's a tax base. In fiscal 2024, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority collected a record $382.7 million in room taxes, an 8.1% increase. But officials are already bracing for a slowdown, budgeting for lower revenue in 2025. Clark County projects a $110 million budget deficit, driven in part by an expected 5.6% drop in room tax collections. That money doesn't just line casino pockets. It funds education, transportation, and public services. When tourism declines, schools suffer, roads go unrepaired, communities pay the price through higher taxes and reduced support. The impact is visible at the street level, too. Workers in hospitality, servers, dealers, cleaners, are reporting fewer shifts and smaller paychecks. The ripple effect spreads outward, hitting taxi drivers, small restaurants, and mom-and-pop shops that rely on visitor spending. For decades, the Strip has been an economic engine, not just for corporations, but for ordinary Nevadans. Now that engine is sputtering, and the people who built their lives around it are left in limbo. The tragedy is that none of this had to happen. Las Vegas succeeded for so long because it embraced volume. The more people came, the more energy filled the city, the more money circulated, and the more everyone from casinos to workers to local governments benefited. By abandoning that formula, executives have triggered a cycle of decline. As fewer middle-class families visit, occupancy drops, tax revenue falls, and public services shrink. The very community that makes Vegas possible is being hollowed out by the decisions of those at the top. What's emerging is not just an economic crisis, but a social one. A city that once symbolized escape and inclusivity now risks becoming a gated playground for the few. And the costs of that transformation are being borne by the many. Las Vegas has always been the undisputed king of entertainment, but even kings can fall when they forget what made them powerful. The city's obsession with exclusivity has opened the door for competitors, and those rivals are seizing the opportunity. Imagine an NFL stadium where only the luxury boxes are filled, while the rest of the seats sit empty. That's the perfect analogy for today's Vegas casinos, focusing so heavily on whales that the rest of the arena, the everyday fans, no longer show up. And without a crowd, even the most expensive seats lose their value. Local casinos are proving the point. Properties off the Strip that continue to serve ordinary residents are thriving, reporting revenue increases of up to 50%. Why? Because they understand volume still matters. The buzz of full tables, the excitement of crowds, The sense that everyone is part of the show, that's the true lifeblood of gaming. Strip casinos, by contrast, are hollowing themselves out in the pursuit of exclusivity. Meanwhile, outside competition is heating up. Atlantic City is positioning itself as a budget-friendly alternative, reminding travelers that they don't need Vegas glitz to enjoy the thrill of gambling. Closer to home, small desert towns around Nevada are investing in renovated resorts and low-cost casinos, drawing in tourists priced out of the Strip. And beyond U.S. borders, destinations like Cabo San Lucas and Napa Valley are promoting all-inclusive packages that deliver more value for less money. As one travel agent put it bluntly, if you can go to Mexico for an all-inclusive vacation that costs less than a weekend in Vegas, you're going to Mexico. The international picture is just as bleak. Canada, traditionally Vegas's largest foreign market, is pulling back. Political tensions and soaring costs have convinced many Canadians to scrap their U.S. travel plans entirely. Industry reports estimate that international visitor spending in the U.S. has fallen by $12 to $29 billion, making America one of the only major economies to see such a decline. For Las Vegas, which once relied heavily on international tourism to fuel growth, that loss is devastating. What's striking is that competitors are doing what Vegas used to do, best balancing value with spectacle. They're offering clean rooms, affordable meals, and experiences that feel like a bargain. Vegas, by contrast, has abandoned that compact. The unspoken deal: you'll probably lose the money you gamble, but in return, you'll get unforgettable memories, is broken. Now, visitors feel nickel and dimed at every turn, with nickel meaning $25 and dime meaning $50. Even industry insiders admit the city is losing ground. One casino employee confessed online that executives are ruining our city trading atmosphere for quick profits. The result is a Strip that feels less like the beating heart of American leisure and more like a sterile showroom for the wealthy. And while Vegas doubles down on its risky strategy, rivals are quietly stealing its audience. The message couldn't be clearer: if Las Vegas insists on becoming a playground for the few, other destinations are more than willing to welcome the many. At its core, the crisis in Las Vegas isn't just about greed, it's about desperation. The traditional casino model, built on slot machines, table games, and mass tourism, is under siege. Younger generations no longer feel the same thrill walking into a casino when they can gamble on their phones with dozens of apps competing for their attention. The U.S. online gambling market hit $12.68 billion in 2024, and that number is climbing fast. Instead of innovating to meet this shift, Vegas has doubled down on an old playbook: squeeze the customers they still have harder while chasing a handful of ultra-wealthy elites. The fallout is visible everywhere. Buffets, once a symbol of Vegas's egalitarian spirit, are disappearing. As of March 2025, only 8 all-you-can-eat buffets remain on the Strip, down from dozens just a few years ago. Those that survive charge double or triple the prices, often with declining quality. Even family-owned institutions are collapsing. Poker Palace, a North Las Vegas casino that had served locals since 1974, announced its permanent closure in October 2025, laying off 126 employees. When staples like these vanish, it's not just a business loss, it's a cultural one. So, what can be done? Some industry leaders are beginning to recognize the danger. Tourism consultant Desiree Stokes-Bloom has suggested a moratorium on resort fees to lure back travelers. Though so far, only Resorts World Las Vegas has taken that step. Regulators at the Nevada Gaming Control Board are floating rule changes to loosen thresholds for private gaming salons. But critics argue that such reforms only deepen the divide by catering even more to the wealthy. Real change requires something much more fundamental: a return to balance. That balance means remembering what made Las Vegas thrive in the first place: accessibility. The construction worker from Ohio and the millionaire from Manhattan sat side by side at buffets. Families from Canada shared sidewalks with celebrities. Tourists didn't come just for the games, they came for the atmosphere, the promise that everyone was welcome, that for one night you could live bigger than your means. The Strip's greatest strength was its diversity of experience, and by tearing that apart, the city is undermining itself. The solutions aren't glamorous, but they're necessary. Reintroduce affordable food options. Restore free attractions that create energy and draw crowds. Curb resort fees and hidden charges that make guests feel exploited. Stop treating the middle class as expendable and instead recognize them as the economic foundation they have always been. If Vegas wants to survive the rise of online gambling and global competition, it needs to differentiate itself not by exclusivity, but by spectacle and inclusivity, the very qualities that once made it legendary. Because the truth is simple, no city can sustain itself by chasing whales while starving the ocean around them. If Las Vegas continues down this path, it risks becoming a hollow monument to greed with empty sidewalks and shuttered businesses as its legacy. But if it listens, if it learns from its own history, it still has a chance to reclaim its magic. The question is whether those in power are willing to admit what every economics textbook already makes. Clear, sustainable business isn't built on eliminating your customer base. Las Vegas has always thrived on illusion, the promise that anyone could come play and for one night feel larger than life. But today, that illusion is cracking. Hidden fees, demolished attractions, and an obsession with billionaires have left the middle class the very heartbeat of the Strip feeling betrayed. Workers are earning less, families are staying away, and the city's tax base is shrinking. What was once a playground for all is becoming an empty arena for a select few. The irony is painful. In trying to court whales, Vegas is driving away the steady flow of customers who actually kept it alive. The result is declining occupancy, collapsing profits, and a community struggling to fill the gap. It's a strategy that cannot last. A city built on volume cannot survive without the crowds, the energy, and the atmosphere they create. But the story of Las Vegas isn't finished. The question is whether the city will remember its roots, spectacle, inclusivity, and accessibility, or double down on a path that leads to decline. The choice will determine not just the future of the Strip, but the fate of the thousands of workers and families who depend on it. So I'll leave you with, this is Vegas evolving, or is it killing itself? One hidden fee at a time. Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you want the truth behind the neon lights. Because the crisis in Vegas isn't just about money, it's about the soul of America's playground.